Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest? Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
And welcome back to Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And just like the introduction says, if you have a question, you can always send it to us on our Facebook page or on YouTube if you're over there watching, and we'll answer that question the best we can. Now, before we get started, I do want to remind you, coming up August 28th and September 25th, August 28th in Eureka, Missouri, and September 25th at the camp at Lake Wapapello on, again, Saturday. We have Freedom Jam, and this is it's a charity concert for Operation Triage. You can go to operationtriage.org, find out what they're all about, but we're doing charity concerts for them. We've got a total of 25 artists in 2 locations in 2 days, and you can absolutely get your money's worth. So tickets are $30 for St. Louis and at Eureka, and then they're $25 at the camp. You can get them at eventbrite.com. Just search for Freedom Jam 2021 St. Louis or SEMO, either one. Tonight, I am joined by a gentleman who fronts a band that is called 3 Gun Whiskey, and these guys are kind of a southern rock, a little edgier feel with some outlaw thrown in. I don't know exactly how to sum all that up. Jed, can you kind of help me out here?
We're just as speechless as you are. It's kind of just come out the way it's come out. We, with all the different genres within country music these days, it's really just, we play rock and roll, country. I mean, we play everything if it feels good. So as far as like our writing and our original stuff has come out definitely edgier than what I would say would be just a normal country sound. We kind of made up our own genre called blue collar country. So that's kind of the word we made up to describe it, just because it's southern rock, it's country, it's outlaw, it's a little bit of everything.
Now, you guys are based out of Monticello, Illinois, correct?
Yes, sir. We're in central Illinois, just outside Champaign. Okay.
All right. And what's the climate for country music up in that area? I mean, is it pretty widespread, or is it just kind of a niche, or how are they dealing with that up in that area?
It is kind of hit and miss. There's quite a few guys doing the standard top 40. If you turn on the local radio station, you know, there's a lot of cover guys doing that sort of stuff and playing the exact stuff you're going to hear on the radio out of Nashville. As far as original artists go and guys playing stuff like we do, there's a couple in the area, but not really. Our music scene here is kind of, I wouldn't say it's gone downhill, but as far as bands that are you know, working at our level, traveling and doing stuff, there's, you know, you got to go west towards Peoria. Mm-hmm. There's a couple guys over there doing it. But it's really not super hot over here. I mean, we have no problem getting, you know, if we have a weekend off and we want to play in a bar, we have no problem getting bar gigs. There's the music scene has kind of gone down. Like I said, we're near Champaign, which is where the University of Illinois is. Mm-hmm. And unlike most college towns, you cannot find live music on this university anywhere. Wow. It's just a DJ at every place, you know. So and the other venues just were struggling and shut down. So the music scene here has kind of gone backwards since we've been doing it, to where there's really just some smaller bars, and the country scene, I said it's pretty bleak.
That's interesting with it being a college town, because you would think there would be a big, you know, desire for that of live music, especially in a college town.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the people are either somebody's not listening or someone's just missed the whole concept, because we played with Wade Jennings Saturday night, and some guy came up and he's like, man, I drove 3 hours just to come see some live music, you know. And wow. It's just I think the venues around here, I mean, I would understand it. You know, you could pay some kid with a MacBook $200 whatever he wants to play as a DJ, or you can drop some coin and get a band in there. Well, it's a
Right.
gamble, and some places that used to be packed aren't really that packed anymore due to COVID. So
Right.
it's still kind of everything's up in the air, man.
Yeah, and even though I mean the country's opened up a lot because of course the vaccines and stuff, and people feel like that we're kind of looking at the end of this, but I think more people are still concerned about it than let on as far as COVID goes. And and obviously it's affected you guys quite a bit if you don't have as many, you know, chances for gigs and stuff like that. And that's always bad for any artist, you know.
It messed with us. We had real good momentum going into 2020. That summer prior to 2020, I think we played like 13 states or something, and been all over the Midwest. And we were moving up, and then COVID hit, and it just basically for us it's that struggle to get that momentum back, and it's coming back. Right. But I also think we're talking about people. I think a year of people just getting used to every Friday and Saturday night they're getting a bottle of whatever they're drinking and sit at home and watch some Netflix. I think they're having to kind of readjust to like, oh, I can go out, I can do this. I think everybody's kind of readjusting their normal, and they need to get back into going out and supporting musicians.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the big things right now. You want to make sure to support guys like Three Gun Whiskey and a lot of these other live bands, because that's, some of them, that's their, I'm sure with COVID, everybody, I've talked to a lot of artists and they've said, they've had to take a different job because of COVID, because it closed them down and couldn't do anything, couldn't travel, couldn't get gigs, stuff like that. But it's getting back to the point where, people can go out and they want to go out, but it's almost like, like I said, there's still that fear in the back of their mind of what could happen, so yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. And like, go ahead, sir. We got a bit of a delay. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, and because of that, I think it's just kind of, since it is kind of coming back, we want people to get out and support these, especially the independent artists. I mean, that's kind of who, with the podcast, we support independent country artists, and that's what we want to continue to do. So that's why I encourage people, if you get the opportunity to go out and listen to them, then by all means, go out and listen to them.
Yeah, we every single musician will tell you the same thing. We appreciate you coming out, having a good time, buying merchandise if you like us, dancing, just having a good time, because that's really, it sounds cliche, but everybody that does it, that's why they do it. They do it because they like to entertain, and they like the feeling you get when playing music. And without, me personally, I like to sit in my basement by myself and play guitar, but it's 100 times better when you got people watching it and enjoying it and having fun. And that's why most people do it, is to have fun and share what they work on with other people. And if everybody just wants to sit home and watch a live stream every week, it doesn't do those of us that like going out and doing it live any good.
Right, exactly. So tell me a little bit about how you got into music yourself. I know there's four guys in the band, counting yourself.
Yes, sir. Myself, the other guys didn't make it in tonight. Well, I was planning on doing this at home, but with my kids running around upstairs, my jam room's in the basement down there. It's summertime, so they're not in school. So we'd be listening to the kids running back and forth. So I came down to our practice studio. Okay. But I basically got in music. My father played guitar. My father was in the military, and he was on ships. So a couple times he'd go to sea, he'd leave. He still has an old Martin D28. He left it at home a couple times, and I figured I'd teach myself how to play it. So back then we didn't have YouTube, so I was reading the tablatures and the chord diagrams, which a lot of these young guitarists probably wouldn't, know how to read a chord diagram because they watch it on YouTube. But started doing that when I was probably 12, and was in a band in high school, and got out of high school, went in the military, and didn't play in a band while I was in the service. But if anybody listening was in the service, they know that if you got a guitar and you could play in your barracks room on Friday, Saturday night, there's people in there partying with you and listening to you play. So kind of went through that phase, and then got out of the service and moved back here to Illinois, and me and a couple guys just kind of started jamming in the garage, and actually threw a big party out. I got some property with a big shed. We throw a big party out there. I'm like, hey, let's put a band together and have a party. And then it just kind of escalated from there. Wow. And like I said, I got the other guys in the band is Brandon Hayes. He's our bass player. If you see any of our videos or anything, he's a real big guy. He's hard to miss. Dave Ackman, he's our lead player. He's been playing since he could walk, I think. I don't know if you've listened to our stuff, the leads, the guy's incredible. Yeah. And then our drummer, Jake McNamara, he just joined us the beginning of the year, and he's amazing drummer, full-time musician. So yeah, he started in high school like everybody else, all of us did, and just trying to keep him busy. But yeah, so we kind of threw it all together on a whim, and it's just kind of, we've been running with it hardcore for the past 2 years.
That's awesome, though. I mean, to be able to have that kind of a momentum, like you said, going into this. Now, you guys do, in your shows, I was reading earlier, you guys will do originals, and then you'll put in like some of the outlaw stuff like Waylon and Willie and Shooter Jennings and Whiskey Myers and some of those guys. But you kind of make it your own. You put that little edge to it.
Yes, sir.
Is that just...
No, I think it a lot has to do with our musical influences, what we're listening to. Mm-hmm. You know, I grew up with parents listening to AC/DC, and you know, of course, I'm of the Metallica age where when I picked up a guitar when I was, you know, my first electric guitar, I tried to learn every single Metallica song I could play, and right. But you know, Grandpa listened to Waylon and Willie, so I know that stuff. But when we started playing it live, I just wanted to play it heavier and harder. So we've had a lot of people, you know, come up to us and be like, "Man, I've never heard this song played that way. You guys, that was awesome." And I'm okay with playing covers. I know a lot of guys knock them, but I think you got to make it your own, like you said, what we try to do. And I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to hear a cover song that we do in one of our sets that sounds just like you'll hear it on the album. We always kind of make it our own, or we mix a couple songs together that you won't expect. And we do, for example, we do Kalijah, the old Hank song. Yep. And we go from that right into Indian Outlaw by Tim McGraw. And
okay.
So it's the goofy switch, but both of them sound more like rock songs, but it's just the way we push it. And that's what we like to do, is kind of mix things, change things, and do it, and still honor the original, but make it kind of a Three Gun Whiskey song.
Right. So when you're playing a live show, like what kind of weighting are you given to your originals and to cover tunes? You know, a lot of the bars will say, well, we want kind of an 80-20 weight where the majority of it is cover tunes, and then you get you get to do some of your originals, but they don't want you to do a lot. Or is that kind of the same? I mean, you guys go more original than you do with the covers?
It depends on what the gig is, to be honest with you. You know, if we're doing like a 40-minute opening set for somebody, you know, of course we're gonna do heavy, you know, all the originals we can, maybe throw in a well-known cover, you know, to kind of mix it up a little bit, like any artist you see now will do, you know, pretty much do that. To make money, if we're playing a 4-hour bar gig, I wish we had 4 hours of original music, like you know, some of these huge bands have been around for 30 years, but right. We're not Kiss or Rolling Stones, so we don't have 4 hours of original music. And that's when the longer shows we play, that's when we mix in a lot of covers, but we're very selective with the covers. And I like to play stuff that maybe not everybody's heard, to where they might either assume it's us or not know of the artist, and maybe turn people on to you know, artists like, you know, we play a Steel Wood song, and I love those guys. And we played one the other night, and the guy was like, "Man, was that your guys' song?" I said, "I wish I could take credit for that song." You know, I said, "But no, it was a Steel Wood song." And so he's like, "Okay," and he downloaded the album on his phone right in front of me. I was like, "That's awesome." You know, I was able to turn him on to almost a different genre of music, because that's more like us, like right. You said, the Whiskey Myers, the Steel Woods, the bands like that are kind of heavier Southern rock influence.
Right.
So yeah, we do the best we can to play as much original music as we can, but if we're booked for 4 hours, that ain't doable.
Unfortunately, yeah. And who normally, like when you're getting ready for a show, do you get a set list together, and is that the whole band that's involved in that, or since you primarily do a lot of the front, vocals, do you decide on the set list? How does that work out?
I do most of that. We, like I mentioned, we played with Wade Jennings last Saturday, and I believe there might have originally was going to be another opener, but it turned out to be just us and him.
Mhm.
So the venue ended up asking us to play for 3 hours. Well, that of course we had to throw in some cover stuff, but I went through and completely revamped our show. And if anybody's done a long set list, it is not a fun task to do. But we try to mix it in, like I said, and Brandon, all three of us up front sing, other than our drummer. So we do have the versatility to throw in, just a little bit of a change of a sound to have Dave or Brandon sing. They're both amazing vocalists.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I usually run the set list, but I don't do it and come up and say, this is what we're playing, boys. I'm like, hey, how's this look? And every once in a while I'll get, hey, let's flip those two around, or Dave will be like, well, let's run in those key, that's 3 songs in a row in the key of D. Let's throw something else in the middle of them, stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, I typically do most of it, but with heavy input from the other guys.
Now, with the venues that you've played, and you were talking about, before COVID got kind of ugly and shut everything down, you're talking about playing in 13 states. What's your favorite venue that you've played in?
My favorite venue, and it's the same place we played last week, is a place called Exit 210 Saloon.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Oakwood, Illinois. It's about an hour and a half from here, and they have a huge open, big outdoor stage, festival size stage, pro light. I mean, it's an awesome place to play. Going from that and playing bars, I feel like I'm lost on that stage because it's so huge. But that's one of the more funs. We played a place called Scooters
Mm-hmm.
Roadhouse up in Chicago, and that's a really fun place to play. They're real big on country music and our kind of style up there. And that's just a huge. They got it like one stage in one room, in another room they have a DJ, and it's packed to the walls of everybody from people in their 60s to the kids that are they call them kids, but they're 21.
Right.
So it's a fun place to play. And then another place, if you haven't heard of, that you should check out, is a place called Game 6 Honky Tonk.
Yes, St. Louis.
Down in St. Louis.
Yeah.
We actually started playing down there right when he first opened. I think I actually had a gig booked with them before they opened. We haven't played down there in a bit. I think we've, respectfully, I think we've gotten a little harder sounding than what they're typically booked down there. But
Right.
Me and Ryan, the guys that own the place, we're buddies, and he's called us a couple times because he's had cancellations to see if we can make it down there. But that place is just fun. It's right next to the baseball stadium. Those would probably be my top 3.
Okay. All right. So, when you're like with your writing, I mean, I've been listening to some of the original stuff, and with your writing, who's influenced your writing as far as the style that you write? Either yourself or collectively as a band, if you guys all come together and write, if you had to say, somebody influenced that the most, or several people, who would those influences be?
That's kind of hard to choose. To answer part of your question, I do most of the vocals writing,
Mm-hmm.
the lyrical writing. Sorry. Then I'll usually run it past Dave. We'll make a couple changes and we'll go back to it. I'd say as far as the way I write, I mean, who could not love Chris Stapleton and the way that guy writes a song? I wish to God I had a 16th of his talent, But I like kind of the more obscure, like I want you to hear a song and be 100% okay if it means something completely different to you than it does to me writing it, because it's just kind of feeling. And we've joked, I so far am completely unable to write a happy song, and I'm a happy guy. Like,
Right.
it's just the way when I get in that zone and sit down and start writing, what comes out, I can't write a song about, dancing in the back of a pickup truck and loving the spring air. It hasn't come out of me yet.
Right.
But Bob Seger is an amazing songwriter, and I listened to him a lot when I was a kid. And then, like I say, yeah, like Cody Jinks. I love Cody Jinks.
Mm-hmm.
I like his style of writing. His songs, I think, reference well what I said, was that his songs, they have a soul to them. Every single one of them does. And like I said, I'm not comparing my ability to his ability, but I like the style of it.
Right.
And I like putting something down that is just kind of raw and lets you guide yourself on what you feel about the song.
Right.
Because you don't necessarily need to know what I feel about, the song. You want to hear it and it relate to you somehow and go. The good example, one of our songs, Battered and Blue. That song, even though it kind of seems like it's kind of a darker song, and it is, but
Mm-hmm.
that came from deep inside of me. And
Right.
it's lyrically, that's probably the most heartfelt song that I have. But I was going through a tough time in my life, and that's what came out. That
Right.
one, and also Come to Me, is also a song that was fun to write, because it just kind of, it was emotional. So, and that's how I like to write, is emotional stuff. And those guys that I mentioned, Cody Jinks, Stapleton, those guys write emotional songs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think about Stapleton, and one of the things I think about is, oh, trying to think of the name of the song now, but the one that, he wrote about where they found the dog in the grocery store parking lot and took it home.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to say it's like Molly's song or something like that. I know
Yeah,
it's, yeah.
it's something song. It's named after a
Yeah.
dog. Yes.
And, it's like, who would think that writing a song like that would be something that you would, he put it on his album, and it's like, it was just thinking about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're dog owners. We love our
Yeah.
dogs. Something happened to them, we'd be upset and all that. And I mean, I've had dogs that I've lost, and it's really upset me. But then he turns around, he writes a song about it, and it's just a phenomenal song. I mean, the guy, I don't think he could. I think he could write the ABCs backwards, and the
Oh,
way he sang them and stuff, it would be,
yeah,
it would come out in a way that everybody be going, "Oh my gosh,"
yeah.
because he
I
is
actually, the
phenomenal.
song I've been listening to on the way here, I got to find the name of it here. I didn't know if the song he did as, was it the Johnson Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
the rock band he was in
Yeah.
after he left the Steel Drivers. He was in the Johnson Brothers, and somebody sent it to me on Facebook. It's like, man, this song sounds like, something you guys would do. It's called On the Run. If you haven't heard it yet, man, that song is amazing. And it's not any of his mainstream stuff. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of more of a rock sound. But
Right.
you could, that was obviously when he was writing. I mean, he still writes for himself, but like, he wrote that as a rock song. But if he played it acoustic with a country push to it, it would be an excellent country song.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
with that kind of leads me into something else. With the style that you guys have, do you like, the best way I know to put it is break out the 1980s hair bands? They'd get up and they do a song acoustic. Everybody be playing acoustic guitars, be it bass or whatever. Do you guys ever do that and just throw out a couple of acoustic songs in your sets? Or,
When we first started playing, I only played acoustic.
Mhm.
And then as we kind of got heavier and heavier, I got into, brought out the electric guitars, started doing that. We've actually talked about it, about start doing a couple songs acoustically.
Mhm.
I'm all for it. And to be honest with you, this may sound like a really shit excuse for somebody that does this frequently, but I sold a couple guitars and bought a brand new Gibson J45 50s reissue.
Okay.
And I spent a bit of coin on this guitar, and with the humidity and everything out here when we play these big venues, and then we kind of get after. I mean, I take my Les Paul in to get cleaned up every month and a half or so for a setup and everything, and it's covered in every body fluid and whiskey. I mean, it's just dirty as hell. And the guys at the guitar shop, the Upper Bout, where I take all my gear, they're like, "Man, you play these things." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I bought them for."
Right.
And I haven't quite brought myself to where I'm comfortable bringing this, this brand new Gibson J45 that it's from the custom shop. So I spent close to $4,500 on it. I haven't quite decided I want to bring that out and get spit and chew spit and whiskey and sweat all over it yet.
Right.
And Dave's like, "You should bring that thing out. You should bring it out." It'll happen soon, but right now I'm still that thing's still new enough where I'm still babying it.
Right.
But I love the sound of it, so I don't necessarily want to buy something cheaper to take and play because it won't sound as good as this guitar does. But it's I'm hard on guitars, and I don't want to beat up a really expensive acoustic right now.
Right.
But it's in the works. That "Come to Me" song. I did the acoustic intro to that, and that's on that guitar. But we'll eventually work it in. Right now, our sets are super. They're just kind of drive and they're heavy.
Right.
And it would be good to have the little bit of change in sound for a song or two. But like I said, once I decide I'm going to bring that thing out, we'll do it.
Yeah, that's something that I've seen other bands do, kind of, like I said, kind of bringing back the 80s hair bands because, a lot of them used to do that. And,
oh yeah. It's like Guns N' Roses doing Patience. I mean,
yeah,
who would have thought that had come out of them when they came, when they did that? And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of folks that did that back then, and they came out and it was just like, wow, that's now my favorite song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, now as far as the show goes, I mean, you're talking about the energy just being, kind of heavier and, that borderline, like I said, where you're just right there on the cusp of doing the country and the Southern rock, and maybe, it's kind of like when you're cooking, your main ingredient is country, and then you put a little, you spice it up with Southern rock, and then just to make it a little bit better, you add a little bit of, harder edge rock to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I like the blue collar country. I think that's a great umbrella for you to put your music under, because I mean, that's what a lot of people listen to. They were raised on the 80s metal and the 90s metal or hard rock, and then the country, and their parents probably listened to a lot of Waylon and a lot of Willie and Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson, all the outlaw guys from back then.
Yeah.
So
it just the way I thought about it in my head was like, you go to any construction site, get an old boy's pickup truck and go through his presets on his stereo. He's going to have the country station. He's going to have the classic rock station. He's going to have the modern rock station, and then maybe a couple of things that are kind of in the middle someplace.
Right.
Because the type of people that come to our shows, I guarantee you, that's what their presets on their radio are. It's a little bit of all those things. They'll flip through them and they'll find the songs they like, but in reality, they like all three of them just as much. And we're just by accident blending all that into the way we're writing.
Right. Right. So when you get into, say you go into a venue, you get all set up, you're getting ready to go. And I mean, we talked about the set list and that kind of thing. Have you ever been in a situation where you're looking at the crowd and you're going, boys, we're going to change this up just a little. We're going to shift out and go into something else. Is that something that you do, or are you pretty, pretty strict? Because I mean, you mentioned being in the military, and they kind of get you to where you follow orders and that kind of thing. And I'm not making fun of that at all, but whenever you get out into like music and stuff, sometimes you have to throw that away. But have you ever had that situation where you're reading the room? That's what you have to do. You still have to read the room.
Yes, sir. And that's how I look at it. I mean, I do like having a structured plan, but I'm also, like you said, you cannot be ignorant to the fact of what's going on in front of you. So yeah, if we got people out and everybody's dancing, I'll come and say, hey, we're skipping this, or I'll just turn to them and say, holler out a song. Well, I got no problem skipping songs, moving songs, not playing things.
Right.
A lot of times time constraints too on how we're playing, because I want Dave to have free will. Sometimes he'll take a song. I think one night he played Whiskey River for 15 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, just getting after it. And I didn't want to like infer to him I wanted him to stop, because I was impressed watching the man do it. I mean, he was just up and down, like, going crazy on it.
Right.
But we definitely change things around if we need to, or if we're not feeling something that night. I got no problem skipping stuff or moving around. But or going to a venue and be like, oh, they booked us. This isn't really the type of venue we thought, and everybody's in here eating dinner.
Right.
Like we're not going to play. Maybe we'll tone it down, play some older, slower stuff during dinner. Just because a lot of these venues we go to, I've never walked in. We do the best you can, look at Facebook pictures, and you can see the Facebook page or their website. They got this big gorgeous stage, and you show up there at 7:00, and there's still kids eating dinner in front of you. It's like, well,
Right.
I didn't know that's what this place is, so I'm obviously not going to sing about whiskey and cocaine and women at 7:02. We're going to change it up a little bit,
Right. Oh, now I have another thing, just real quick. We've talked about you being in the military and that kind of thing. So I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
And,
Appreciate it.
And most of all, thank you for protecting me, my family, our rights, and everything that we have. Make it a little more personal there. I hate to say that. I want to thank you for your service, because, it wasn't a service, so to speak. I mean, it's something you wanted to do. So I thank you for your decision to protect our country. If, I try to be very mindful of that fact. And, how long did you serve as
I
far
did
as?
a total, between active and reserve, I did a total of 12 years.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you were deployed. You'd mentioned that earlier that you'd.
Yeah, I did a few tours over in Iraq.
Okay.
So like you said, it was a calling for me. I grew up in a military family. Dad served, grandpa served, his brother served. I really had, it was a personal decision, but from the age of my boy, who's 9 now, I knew that's what I was going to do. So
Right.
just what I wanted to do. It was a great job. I loved it, and this today. So
Right. Another question, and I don't ask this one very much because a lot of times I don't have, enough information about an artist to know, if they're married and if they have kids and things like that. But as a dad, what's one thing that you wish someone would have told you in the beginning before you become a father, that you look at now and you say, man, if I'd have known that 9 years ago or 5 years ago, there could have been something.
That's a hell of a question. I think the thing I struggle with, that has been told to me, but maybe not phrased in the term in which I felt that it was appropriate, or that I understood how intense it was it's okay to screw up.
Right.
Because I personally am hard on myself worried that something I do is going to negatively affect my kids, and or if I'm being too strict or too loose or whatnot.
Right.
And when it comes down to it, if you remember being a kid, all you wanted was your parents to be fun and enjoy your time with them and stuff like. And I think that would be if someone were to sink it into my head before I had kids, it was like then told me that you're gonna mess up. Every day is not gonna be perfect, but just give those kids as much love as you can, and that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that would help me not be worried about, being too strict with them and making them, upset, or being too friendly and not being a parent and having them end up being, wild down the road. I think for me, myself, my best parenting is done when I'm just myself and
Right.
I'm just having fun with them and just being dad and having a good time. And I think
So
everything else comes natural.
if your 9-year-old son comes to you and says, Dad, I want to follow in your footsteps and I want to be a musician, what kind of advice are you going to give him?
Play the drums, because everybody always needs a good drummer. He's got an electric drum kit, because before we got this practice studio here, we used to practice in my machine shed.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd always be out there beating on the drums. And so I got him a set he can play in his room, and he messes around with it a little bit. I also know that I can't push him too hard. I'm hoping one day he'll pick it up more than he does, but that would be one piece of advice would be learn, at least be able to gig playing the drums, because everybody always needs a drummer. There, for some reason, it's just the drummers never seem to go short of bands to play with.
Right.
And two, learn as much as you can. If you want to be a musician, you could, in high school, you could love heavy metal and want to be in a metal band, and then next thing you know, you're playing in a country band. So anytime you're practicing your instrument, practice as many different genres as you can, because if you're doing it to make money, you're gonna, maybe some band that plays gospel music is going to pay you $1,500 a night to show up.
Right.
And you want to be able to, tune your guitar back up to standard tuning and, plug into a Fender instead of a big Marshall huge stack, and
Right.
go play gospel, make your money. Learn how to play everything and just try to be versatile and enjoy the music.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, that's advice for even a lot that are, wanting to be musicians now.
Yeah.
that have tried, but it's a very good. I've always thought, the one thing that I really like about the songs that I've listened to from you guys is the fact of how you put them together. I mean, I'm one of these that you can get something from any genre of music, whether it's, Southern rock, hard rock, even rap. I mean, and I probably have a lot of people would want to take me out back and kick me around 2 or 3 times, but there's always something in that you can learn to incorporate. The thing about rap is, cadence and rhyming and stuff like that. And that goes for a lot of, just songs. People do that, they match words, they'll rhyme words and stuff like that. So if you listen to all of it, it kind of gets you that well-rounded feel, but you decide, I've got a friend that's always told me in the radio world that I work in when I'm not down in my studio, you always want to be vanilla, because you can add, if you're vanilla and you need to be strawberry, you can add strawberry. But if you're strawberry and you need to be vanilla and you just need to be something kind of there, you can't take the strawberry away. So you're stuck. So you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. And you want to be able to, just like you were talking about, if it's playing, if that's the way you're going to make your money, and then learn how to play rock, learn how to play, gospel or classic country or 90s country or, pop country, whatever. Learn how to play all of it so that you can do that.
Yeah, I agree as far as, the way we put our songs together. I think, Dave is not here, but I have to give him pretty much all the credit for that. The To kind of backtrack a little bit, the way we write, a lot of, the basic simple guitar riffs I come up with, and then Dave expands on them. And to knock myself, I don't know music theory very well. I don't read music. Dave is a master of that stuff. So sometimes, like, I've come up with stuff and be like, "Hey, Dave, what am I playing?" And he'll have to tell me, like, what I'm playing, because I just play it and it sounds good,
Right.
but I don't know where to go next with it. So he really takes what I come up with, forms it, does his leads on top of it, and once we've kind of got that real bass sound we want, Dave will go into his studio, his house, and he'll kind of make the song how it's formatted.
Right.
And then we'll get back together, and sometimes I'm like, that's, I'll tell my, that just sounds a little too busy for me, or like, let's turn this up a little bit here. Him and I work very, very well together with that stuff. And then, but yeah, being able to kind of compose the songs, a lot of that falls on Dave's shoulders with heavy input from myself. But we like just things that sound a little bit different. One of our songs has, some pretty obvious pauses in the middle of it, and that silence for a second just kind of builds you and holds you, and then boom, we hit you again, and just little things like that, and you mentioned rap music. I'm a hip hop fan and a rap fan. Those guys talk about writing lyrics. I mean,
Yeah.
my song's got a couple of verses and a chorus that, one will repeat, or sometimes three verses and something will repeat in there. Those guys will rap for 3 minutes and nothing's the same. It's all complete. I mean, they've spewed out a 15-page essay, and then they're gonna say it so fast, and it's all got to rhyme. Like those guys, the lyrical ability in some of those guys, you can't blame them for the language sometimes they use, because only so many things rhyme with other things. So you got to get creative with what you say. But
Right.
yeah, like you, I have respect for all genres of music, and the, not to sound too cheesy, but the artistic form of it all. I mean, you can't knock the ability of some of these guys. Like, I'm a huge Post Malone fan. I mean, that guy's a freaking, he's awesome. He just released a couple country songs.
Right.
If that doesn't tell you something right there, he's one of the biggest hip hop guys in the world right now. And here he is jamming with the White Yoakum and doing a George Strait song. And it's like, he obviously gets it. He listens, he gets inspiration from everywhere.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's just playing what he wants to play,
And that's, to me, that's, like you say, that's an artist. I mean, that's truly an artist when you can do that kind of thing. And talking about music, I mean, let's get back to Three Gun Whiskey. I mean, you guys, you sent me a song that's very, I just want to share it with folks. It's called Dusty Roads. And once we hear the song, we'll kind of talk about the backstory, and then we'll get into, back into doing some other things here. But I'm really curious to see what the backstory is on the song, because I found it to be a really interesting song. And so we'll take about a 2.5, 3 minute break here. We're going to play Dusty Roads. And do want to let you know that tonight's episode is being brought to you by Three Rangers Whiskey. The guys in Three Rangers, I tell this all the time. If you've ever seen the movie Black Hawk Down, the guys that came up with Three Rangers Whiskey, they were the inspiration for the movie. They were Rangers in Mogadishu, and a great bunch of guys. If you can find it in your area, by all means, go out and get it. It's a very good whiskey. It's got a great flavor. It's got a good kind of more of an oaky taste to it. It's a rye whiskey. I'm not a huge rye whiskey guy, but this is absolutely one of my favorites. If that means anything to anybody, it may not mean anything to anybody, but if you like rye whiskey, check them out. Three Rangers Whiskey. And the Three Rangers are Rangers past, present, and future. their bottle, their label, everything is symbolic. These guys are just they do it and they do it right. So check them out. So here's 3 Gun Whiskey. We'll put that in there real quick so we don't get everybody confused. But 3 Gun Whiskey. This is called Dusty Roads. It's on Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today.
Looking back in my rearview mirror and all the times that I've been through, my destination's growing nearer. I'm leaving this small town of you. Dusty roads and empty bottles, head full of songs of you and me. Don't know which road I'm gonna follow. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee. I've been picking this old guitar just about all of my life. I loved you like I loved no other, but now this vendor is my wife. Dusty roads and empty bottles, head full of songs to you and me. Don't know which road I'm gonna follow. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee. Dusty roads and empty bottles, head full of songs of you and me. Don't know which road I'm gonna follow. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee. Gotta get my ass to Tennessee.
Okay, 3 Gun Whiskey and Dusty Roads. And your voice, now I got to be honest, because your voice when you sing, you got kind of that you can tell you're a hard rock kind of guy, because you just got that hard rock growl in your voice, and it's just that kind of command of what a lot of those guys had, back in the, like I said, I refer back to the 80s, the hard rock back then. But, there were a lot of, even nowadays, a lot of that stuff, but at least yours was to where you could understand it. Some that you can't understand when they do that stuff. But what's the backstory on the song? I mean, where did it come from? What, the inspiration, those kind of things.
So that was actually the first song we ever recorded, and we wrote that. We were, like I said, we were in my machine shed, and it had to have been every bit of 2 or 3 in the morning, and Dave and I we were a little liquored up, and the just kind of the thought of a journey.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that came to me was that opening line. I'm looking back in my rearview mirror at all the times I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
It to me, I overthink things sometimes, and that right there, like just thinking you're moving forward, but you're looking backwards. It's everything you're doing ahead of you has something to do with where you've been.
Right.
And that's kind of how we started it. And then the chorus, Dusty Roads and Empty Bottles, it's a damn good line, I think. One, it fit well.
Yeah.
But I live out in the country, and literally, like, we shot the video. The dirt road we're on in the video is like my house is here in the road right there. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we're not some guys living downtown that are like, oh, we got to go find the country place to do a video. It's like,
Right.
no, we pulled out of my gravel driveway and we made a left, and we're on the dirt road. I mean, that's where but just if you ever, I don't know how populated of an area you stay in down there, but there's a thing called here country cruising, right?
Right.
And living out in the country in the middle of the night, you'll see a car coming down the road, and someone that grew up here, you don't think of who's coming down. You're like, oh, some kids are out country, because that's what you do. Is you drive around, as inappropriate as it may be legally, you drive around, you get screwed up, you toss all your cans and bottles out the window because you can't go home and have your dad and mom find bottles and cans in your car.
Right.
So all these country roads back in the sticks, kind of like where we live, you go down them, and it's kids, because I don't know anybody else that drinks Natty Ice and these other, so they're getting the cheapest stuff they can find. Right. And it's just, you go down the road and yeah, it's litter, but when you look at it, it's our childhood. It's what we did. Right. You drive around, you drive down these country dirt roads, cranking your music, slamming your beer, your whiskey, and you just tossing the bottle and grabbing another one from your boy,
Right.
So yeah, it's dusty roads and empty bottles, and all the times I've been through. That's what I was thinking about was, here I am, a grown ass man with a wife and a couple kids, and my favorite thing to do other than be with my family is to go out and play my guitar and drink and party with people and share this stuff with people. And it's like all these times between growing up here, military, whatnot, to playing music, it's dusty roads, it's empty bottles, it's all the times I've been through.
Right.
It's just, that's why I wrote it and what I think about it.
I really like, because I grew up that way. I mean, I grew up in a rural town. And that's what we did. We'd go out in the country, or we might be in town. We'd sit at the local gas station, drink until the city night cop would come by, and he knew all of us, and he'd be like, guys, you got to go. So then we'd head out, and we would wind up in the weirdest places. I mean, sometimes we wouldn't even know the road we were on. We're just driving.
Yep.
We know we turned this away, so we got to go back. We were headed west, and then we turned south, so we got to go back north and then go back east. That was kind of the thing. It was, you just kind of follow your tracks back. But those were just great times. To me, those were simpler times.
Absolutely.
Those are the times where a lot of kids nowadays have no clue of, they may not think it's fun, but to us, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the same thing as a kid. My dad was in the service, so we moved away from here in my later teenage years. But we did the same thing. Go out, hang out in the parking lot of a gas station, and exactly like you described, you sit there till the city cop does everything but tells you the exact words of "get out in the county," so I don't have to deal with you. Mm-hmm. That's basically what they're doing. They're like, get out of the city, because once you get out in the county, you're not my problem anymore. So they're basically tell you to go out in the country, and that's what you do, And I hope my kids enjoy just hanging out with a few friends and doing. I'm not going to condone my kids to go drive around drinking, but now I think, like you said, simpler. Did I have a better childhood doing that stuff than someone that's sitting in front of an iPad all their teenage years? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And you're right. I miss that stuff.
Yeah, it's just the whole life was so much simple. So I do a couple of things throughout the show, and we've talked about your military service, and that was kind of one of the things I wanted to focus on in one of the segments that I do. But it's like you said you served 12 years. You've been in Iraq. You've been deployed. You did reserves, so you've done active and reserves and that kind of thing. Is there any part of those 12 years that you wish you could redo?
The day I got my brother, my younger brother, he's about a year out from retirement. He's a Navy SEAL, and
Oh, okay.
he's getting ready to retire with a full retirement before his 40th birthday. And and yeah, I would have liked to make a career about it. As far as that being as far as a deeper answer, I think something I would have done different would have been kind of slowed down. And it's hard to realize when you're in your early 20s that the things you're doing are going to define who you are for the rest of your life. Because there's many people that know of me and they know me as the guy that plays in a band and the guy that did XYZ while he was in Iraq.
Right.
And, that I would have been nice to kind of, someone told me slow down and enjoy this time because yeah, war's hell, it sucks, but I still talk with the guys that are still with us that I employ with. Like you're literally making friends for the rest of your life and you're doing A, B, and C. And I kind of wish I'd have slowed down and enjoyed it a little bit as opposed to, bitching and being like, man, they're sending me over here again and da 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 da. It's like, shit, so what? I'm going over for another year,
Right.
It's the rest of my life I'm gonna be telling stories about this next year, then the next time they send you the same thing, you're like, damn, I don't want to go back again. It's just, but in reality, man, that's whether it's the waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats because something to remember, that happens now and again. But when you're thinking about like your leadership and you're thinking about the things that have defined you as a man, that's where I grew up. That's where I became a man, was invading the country. And it would have been nice to kind of realize that at the time that this is going to, like, I am making me right now. This is what I'm going to carry to my deathbed with me, is these things that are going to happen in these next 365 days during this tour.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the insightfulness of that is just amazing. I mean, it's and you're right. I mean, the one line you said in there that I picked up on the most was, what you do today defines basically, and this is kind of my synopsis of it. What you do today is going to define your tomorrow. And that's awesome advice for anybody, going through life. But let's I've got another little thing I like to do. I have to get my phone because I cheat on this one just a little bit. I do and I love the fact of technology, but when you're trying to get somewhere and it pops up Subway, I'm not keen on that. It's like, why are you doing this? This is just a little thing that, and I'll let the intro kind of explain where we're about to go with this. So this is a little segment I like to call What the Hell? It's just a little off the wall questions and where you're going, why would you even ask me that? That kind of thing. This one being in the military, this is going to be a good one. What is the most embarrassing thing that you've ever worn?
Oh shit. In the military, doing what I did, you spend a lot of time naked. So I'm going to say nothing. I mean, if you're in the infantry and if you move up from the infantry into different operation units, you spend a lot of time naked, and that's not something you're ready for. And I can say, yeah, that probably the most embarrassing thing I've worn is probably being butt naked in front of a large group of individuals, and none of us really know why we're all naked. We're just chained. Just something's going on and you got to have, we're getting shots. Everybody's getting gamma globin shots in the ass. Everybody dropped their drawers. So everybody's standing there in the chow hall with their ass hanging out, waiting for the nurses to walk by. So I would say being naked.
If and this is one of those that fits in with this so good. If animals could talk, which one, in your opinion, would be the rudest?
Probably a possum.
I would agree with that. They're rude no matter what.
Yeah, they're some ugly sons of bitches. So I can't imagine their personalities being worth the hell.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just kind of mean. I think they're kind of like those guys that like to puff out their chest to make you think they're really badasses, and they're not.
Like the short guy at the bar,
right?
With bad teeth.
right. I'm going to change this one up a little bit, but if you and the band did a show and tell for adults, what would you be proud to display?
Like stuff we tour with, or just in general?
Just in general.
You haven't met the guy, and I apologize, but that would just be Brandon. Brandon is the crudest, he's hard to ride in a car with. He's loud. He farts every 15 minutes. My show and tell would probably be the circus act of Brandon Hayes, my bass player. Love the man to death. Hilarious, amazing guy to play with, but just, you never know what's going to come out of this man's mouth. And I would have to just say my show and tell is Brandon Hayes. He's going to be Brandon Hayes for 10 minutes and everybody will, crack up.
Right. And I had a feeling whenever you were starting to say that somewhere farts were going to come in there. Sometimes I like to solve the world's problems with these questions. So this is one that I enjoy a lot. Toilet paper, over or under, and why?
Wet wipes. Toilet paper is too rough.
Great advice there. That's a nice thing about having a baby. You have a baby, you can use the baby wipes and nobody ever catches on. Plus they make your butt soft. So there you go. Right. We're good to go. Let's see. If you could marry a fictional character, who would it be? I hope your wife's not watching.
Oh, a fictional character. Who would I marry? It would definitely be a superhero of some sort. Probably Wonder Woman.
That would be good.
I mean, she's hot. She could stick up for me. I won't have to fight. I could just be like, "Hey, honey, this dude's running his mouth. Handle it."
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you kicked Batman's ass last year. Like, go handle this dude.
Right. You got this guy for sure.
Yeah. It would probably do something for me.
All right, this is a good one here. We'll end it with this one. If you could replace one body part with bionics, what body part would it be?
My right hand. I'm not going to go any further.
Okay. you don't need to expound. I was waiting to see if you were going to go further.
Nope. Self-explanatory.
But I had to think. I was trying to picture in my mind. Okay, I've seen pictures of him. Which way is he, a righty or a lefty when he plays guitar?
I'm right-handed. So my left hand works with strings. I could,
yeah. That's what it was. It was in reference to the guitar. So just so you know.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jed, man, I tell you, it's been a blast. I've loved having you on, and I really dig your guys' music and want to kind of keep following you and keep listening. Now, if people want to reach out and they've got questions or they want to find out like where you're playing, where's the best place for them to go?
Our Facebook or Instagram. Our Instagram is 3GW Country on Instagram. Facebook is 3 Gun Whiskey. You can find our email on there. We try to be as responsive as we can to all that. Yeah, we try to do the best we can to posting all of our upcoming events. Our email is 3gunwhiskey@gmail.com if you want to go that route with it. But yeah, any of that social media stuff, you'll get a hold of myself, or we got a guy that helps us do some booking that'll answer, and that's definitely the best way to get a hold of us and check us out and see what we got coming up.
So musically, if they want to check you out, you guys are on all the digital platforms?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music. We're on all that stuff. We got a SoundCloud, and then Hear Me Now, and Reverb Nation. We're on every digital platform we can get on, and we will have some new stuff coming out hopefully by the end of the year.
Okay.
Depending on how harvest goes this year, because work on farms and stuff during harvest, so that kind of puts a damper on things. But we plan on having probably a full-length album out by, if not the end of the year, early 2022.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'll look forward to that, and I'll keep my eye out for it, and then be sure to give it a listen, because I can't wait to hear some stuff. I mean, you guys right now, you've got, and I didn't look at the Spotify today. I didn't, but I think maybe 6-8 tunes, something like that you got on Spotify?
Yeah, we got those up. We released a couple singles, and we released an EP that have 2 of the singles on that EP, but they've been remastered, redone. They're same songs, different tempos, just kind of picked up a little bit. And yeah, we're gonna keep pushing stuff out, and that's I think that's important to keep putting music out to our fans, and keep getting people interested in listening to new stuff, and we're gonna continue doing what we're doing. We're gonna add different stuff and try to make it something interesting and fun, worth listening to. That's
awesome. Again, I can't wait. Coming up on again, Jed, thank you for coming on, and your calling and your decision to protect our country. I appreciate that, and I know a lot of other folks do too. And that's something that's not easily forgotten. I've talked to a lot of folks that have done that, and I've said this before, I never got the opportunity to serve. It wasn't that to go into the military. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It was just, there were some things that held me back to where they said, sorry, and it's like, I take a stab at the Marines, and I'm not being mean to the Marines, but even the Marines wouldn't take me. So, it had to be bad. Probably ought to be more at the Air Force. The Air Force wouldn't take me. So they actually did turn me down. So, but again, keep your eye out for more of 3 Gun Whiskey. If you get a chance to check them out, go to their website, look and see where they're playing in the next, few months, or just keep checking the tour, the show dates, and go by and see them. Tell them you heard about them on b4Nashville, and check them out, and then report back and let me know what the live show is like. I'm gonna have to catch one next time you're at Game 6. I may have to go up there and catch one, because I'm a big Cardinal fan. So I can catch a game during the day and then go get drunk with you guys at night. That sounds like a great time. Coming up Thursday night, I got Biddy James coming on, and so be sure to tune in then. And thank you all for watching and listening. Again, b4Nashville, you can find it on all the platforms, Apple Podcast, on Spotify, Google Cast, all those. It's everywhere. Plus, the videos do stay up, and you can find a replay on YouTube as well. So again, Jed, thank you for coming on, and we'll keep in touch, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, sir. You have a good night.
You too.